Ahoy there, me hearties. This be Captain Silver Hook, and you're listening to the Two Old Pirates podcast. Set sail for an open sea of stories, tales, and some really crazy stuff. I expect you to like and subscribe, lest you be walking the plank.
Alright, hey, it's been a day or two. Welcome to Two Old Pirates Podcast 82. I'm Eric.
I'm Vinny.
82.
82. Good year.
Could have been a lot closer to 100, but it's been a long summer.
Yeah.
Anyways, we wanted to come to you with this short podcast episode over the cold case of the dead John Doe of Rockport, Texas. Yes, Rockport, Texas, our hometown.
Yeah.
Two Old Pirates, Rockport Pirates. Yay. 50 years ago this month, July of 1973.
Half a century ago.
A lot was going on in the world. Not much was going on in Rockport. And a person to this day that we don't know who he is died in our small hometown. And it's one of the rare cold cases of Aransas County, Rockport, Texas. So I'll let Vinny jump in, explaining a little bit about what was going on in the United States in 1973, what Rockport was like, and then we'll jump back and forth between the information about this horrible death.
So here's where we were as a nation and as a society in 1973. Richard Nixon is still the president. He was recently voted in again, and he begins his second term in 73. We still have troops in Vietnam. The Vietnam War is still going on. Elvis broadcasts a worldwide telecast, the first of its kind, out of Hawaii. And his concert has more viewers than the Apollo moon landings.
That's why he's known as the king of rock and roll.
He's the king, baby. The world's first cellular telephone call is made.
So we have now the smartphones, the first one, handheld, that you... Huh?
Like a brick, the old ones back in the day. It's bigger than this.
Yeah. First one was made 50 years ago.
And the World Trade Center in New York opened. And a DJ by the name of I have to look at my notes for this. DJ Kool Herc.
DJ Kool Herc.
Koolherc. Kool Herc invents hip hop.
Yes, he is considered the founder 50 years ago in what city again?
New York City.
And the first cell phone?
Also New York City.
And the Twin Towers?
They were New York City.
So that's what was going on like January to December. You know, there's a ton of different things, but these are some of the topics that we thought. And then Sleepy Little Bitty Rockport here on the coast.
Yeah.
What was the population like?
Less than 4,000.
Less than 4,000. So it was a small town. It's growing right now. Of course, it's 10 to 12,000 right now.
It's more like 15,000, I think.
Coming and going stuff, but the census says it's like 10 to 12,000. So you got less than 4,000. And what else was Rockport like?
It was just a little fishing town.
A little fishing, shrimping,
like barely
oysters,
a blip on the
crabbing. You had 2-lane highway that was going through the town, and you had one blinking light. It was just a small little bitty town. But in July of 1973, on the side of the road, northbound, going out of Highway 35 here in Rockport, a body was found. A body that is still, to this day, 50 years later, a half century, still known just as John Doe.
Yeah, guy didn't have any ID or anything on him.
They believe it was a hit and run, that somebody hit this gentleman while he was on the side of the road, and he was not discovered for 2 to 3 days. Now, growing up in Rockport, we moved here in about 75, and it was still a very small town, of course. How do you not see a body on the side of the road for 2 to 3 days?
Especially when you realize, checking the notes here, that he was wearing a white T-shirt, white Levi jeans, and he also had on a blue elastic belt, but that's beyond the point. He's wearing
all white.
All white. How do you not see that?
And he's off on the side of the road somehow. Maybe there's thicket, maybe there's some branches or something like that, but for 2 to 3 days, nobody noticed that there's his body on the side of the road. Now, Rockport nowadays, with all the traffic and stuff, you're probably going to see something like that. In 1973, you should still see something like that. So somehow this body just stayed out there, they believe, for 2 to 3 days. When they found it, his face was fully recognizable. There was no fractures or cuts to the face. So they they could see the face. They didn't know who it was. And like how Vinny said, there was no ID on the body. So he was about, what was he, 5'10", 145 pounds?
Just about.
Dark brown hair. And 50 years ago, he was hit on the side of the road. Never found out who hit him. And we still don't know who the young man is. But he was killed. I'm going to consider it murdered. Because somebody hit and ran. And his body laid there for 2 to 3 days. But even after 2 to 3 days in the hot July summer sun, with flies, maggots, everything that you could possibly imagine with a dead body, his face was still recognizable. And yet to this day, we don't know who he was, where he's from, anything. It's unfathomable that in Rockport, Texas, after 50 years, nobody's ever looked into this as far as I know lately. I happened to come across it on the internet, and I was like, hold on, that's my hometown. And we don't know who this man is. We don't know about his life. We can't take... they had to have taken a picture at the autopsy. Where is that? Where's that information? I guess just as time goes by through the 70s into the 80s, 90s, and into today, it's just kind of forgotten. Now, here's the deal. The way that my mind thinks, since I've watched all these cold case shows and stuff, and Criminal Minds and stuff, his body has to be buried at the Rockport Cemetery under John Doe. Is it legal, because there's no family that could step in, only the city could step in, to have somebody go through there, dig up the body? I know that sounds gruesome, but go and take a little bit of DNA from the remains and run it through a family genealogy thing that they're doing all the time for the police now to try to solve cold cases. And they could maybe find out somebody in a family tree somewhere that might know, and they could finally close this case and say, hey, that guy's been buried for 50 freaking years, since Nixon was in office, since the first cell phone, all the things that Vinny said, and we could actually have him buried under, his name and with his family. But the thing is, in South Texas in the 1970s, he might have just been a drifter. He might have just been like, free spirit, just, walking and hitchhiking and stuff. We'll never know. And so 50 years goes by, still don't know who the John Doe of Rockport, Texas is. But he was killed 50 years ago this month here in Rockport, Texas. And we still don't know who the young man was. So he is resting somewhere. They buried him somewhere. I'm guessing it's probably Rockport Cemetery. And it's just been like that. So, if you guys have any information on this case, which nobody seems to have for 50 years, I would love to hear about this. If you ever heard about a hit and run a long time ago, if you're an older person from Rockport and you heard about this, I could probably go back to the Rockport Pilot and look through the microfiche. Or is it fish?
I don't know how to pronounce that word.
That's
a word I've only read and never heard.
So the microfiche, that's the way I'd always heard it. I could go back at the library and look it up. 1973, July 9th, 1973, this young man was found dead. And see what they said in the Rockport Pilot about, if they might have put a picture in there, I don't know. But if anybody in here knows about it, I would love to hear about this case, because I think it'd be kind of cool to clear it up so we don't have an unsolved cold case here after all these years, and give the guy some respect and find out who he actually belonged to, and maybe he could get back to his family plot somewhere and be buried appropriately. But anyways, it's a short podcast, under 9 minutes. We hope that you enjoyed this one. If anybody has any questions or comments or ideas for future podcasts, let us know. All right. So anyways, from the Tool Pirates, I'm Eric.
I'm Vinny.
And we hope that you enjoy this and you'll tune in for the next one.
Yes.
Take it easy, guys.